class domain that we'll discuss is classroom organization. And this refers to what teachers do to manage children's behavior, time, and attention in the classroom. So let's begin thinking about this domain. What sort of behaviors might indicate that a teacher is effectively managing children's behavior? How do you know when a classroom is highly productive? How can teachers maximize children's engagement in activities? The dimensions of classroom organization are behavior management, productivity, and instructional learning formats. Let's break these down a little bit more. Behavior management describes how effectively teachers monitor, prevent, and redirect behavior. Within this dimension, we are looking at clear behavior expectations. So the teacher might say, it's time to clean up. Everyone put your books in the bookcase. We're looking for the teacher to be proactive. So they're monitoring and intervening before problems escalate. So while working with a small group during center's time, the teacher is still looking around to make sure the rest of the class isn't having any other problems develop. Redirection of misbehavior is attention to the positive use of subtle cues to redirect. So when teachers don't speak when it's their turn during circle time, the teacher might subtly redirect them by calling attention to the children who are waiting their turn to speak. So something like, thank you, Javier, for raising your hand when you like to speak. And then student behavior is the last indicator. So children behave appropriately with few or no reminders in the classroom. So for example, at the art table, children might share materials and there are no instances of disruptive behavior. Productivity reflects how well the classroom runs with respect to routines and the degree to which teachers organize activities and directions so that maximum time can be spent in learning activities. Within this dimension, we are looking at maximizing learning time. So there's plenty of activities and there's choice when finished. So for example, once children finish an activity, the teacher provides clear choices such as looking at books on the carpet or helping to set up for snack time. Another aspect is routines. So for example, during the cleanup routine, the teacher provides clear instructions and the children get straight to cleaning up, showing that they are familiar with this routine. As a result, there's limited to no wandering. Transitions are another aspect. The transition from circle to center's time is quick and efficient, or maybe back from centers to the carpet. The teacher provides a learning opportunity by doing things such as asking children to name an animal in the book they've just finished reading when they're dismissed from the circle. We covered this a couple weeks ago when we were talking about transitions. And finally, preparation is important. So are the teachers ready for activities and lessons? Are the materials ready? We don't want to see teachers kind of stumbling around, looking for a piece, that whole, oh, where did I put this? That kind of takes away from preparation. And finally, let's talk about instructional learning formats. This engagement dimension is all about getting students' attention. So we're looking at the hooks that teachers use in learning. It's not about instruction, it's more about engagement. So we're looking for effective facilitation. Is there effective questioning? Are we expanding children's involvement? Does the teacher join in activities in the dramatic play area? Do they ask questions to expand their involvement as they play hospital? Like, what is this medicine? What's making me sick? Another part of instructional learning formats is the variety of modalities and materials. So are the students getting hands-on opportunities to learn? And are they interested? Are they actively participating? Are they focused? Are they paying attention? This goes into the teacher's preparation. Did they plan for student interest? And finally, the clarity of learning objectives. So the teacher needs to make sure that the children know what they are supposed to do and why. So this might look like if the teacher focuses children's attention on the objective of the lesson when she says, we're going to learn about how flowers grow by planting our own seeds. Then throughout the lesson, she might follow up and say, what are we learning about? That's right, we're learning about flowers. And how are we going to learn about that? By planting our own seeds. and the last class domain that we'll be discussing before example video is instructional support. So instructional support is not focused on the content of the curriculum or the learning activities that are provided. Instead, instructional support describes the ways in which teachers implement activities and lessons to promote both cognitive and language development. Instructional support also focuses on how teachers use feedback to help children learn. This domain is all about higher order thinking. So let's think about this for a second. How can you tell when your teacher is intentionally promoting higher order thinking? What kinds of feedback can a teacher provide children? And how might teachers support children's language development? The dimensions of instructional support are concept development, quality of feedback, and language modeling. We're going to dive a bit into concept development. Concept development focuses on the process of learning. So rather than just rote instruction and recall of facts, concept development really provides children with the opportunities to use analysis and reasoning in their approach to problem solving. This is the area that brings concepts to life by helping children apply concepts in the classroom to their everyday life. Within this dimension, we're looking at analysis and reasoning. Does the teacher challenge children to think about the hows and the whys? Do they ask thought-provoking questions? Do they focus on critical thinking and comparing and developing children's analytical thinking skills? The next area is creating. So does the teacher provide children with opportunities to be creative, to brainstorm, and generate their own ideas? For example, the teacher helps children at the art table generate ideas about what they are going to make, such as, what are you going to make today? What materials will you need? And then integration. Do they connect concepts to previous knowledge? For example, before reading a story about a family raking leaves together, does the teacher help the children connect the fall concepts by asking, when we talked about the weather yesterday, do you remember what we said is happening to the trees? And then this last section, connections to the real world, is really important. So, are we relating concepts to students' lives? When the teacher introduces a lesson on pets, does she encourage them to make concrete connections between that concept and their lives, with questions such as, who has pets at home? And what kinds of things do you do to take care of your dog? So the next area is quality of feedback. And this relates specifically to teachers' responses to children and how their responses expand children's participation in learning activities. So scaffolding is providing hints or assistance. Feedback loops are those back and forth exchanges. So as a child retells the story of Goldilocks, the teacher might ask follow-up questions to encourage him to provide more detail, such as, how did the bed feel? What did Goldilocks say? And then prompting thought processes. So this is where the teachers focus children on the process of learning by asking children to explain their thinking. How did you know the answer? Those types of questions. Providing information. Teachers need to provide additional information or clarification to expand children's understanding or participating in activities. So for example, the teacher might say, you are right, it is cloudy today. We cannot see the sun because the clouds have covered it up. This is a way of providing additional information. And finally, encouragement and affirmation is an important part of quality feedback. Teachers' feedback increases children's understanding in their level of performance, efforts, or persistence. So something like, you did it. You used all of the blue pegs to make that cake. Finally, the last part of instructional support is language modeling. And classrooms with effective language modeling often have frequent conversations between teachers and children that expose children to a wide range of vocabulary and give them practice with social communication. We're looking at frequent conversation. We're looking at open-ended questions. So asking questions that encourage children to reply with more than a one-word answer. The next is repetition and extension. So teachers might repeat and extend children's responses. So when a child tells a teacher, I did it, the teacher acknowledges the child's comment and then recasts it in a more complex form, such as saying, yes, you did. You threw the ball in the box. Self and parallel talk are another aspect of language modeling. For example, the teacher might narrate the children's actions, such as Dylan's tying an apron or Kayla's putting chicken in the oven. This is that parallel talk. They might also narrate their own actions as self-talk, such as, Miss Silva is writing on the board, or Miss Silva's putting on her jacket because it's cold outside. Finally, advanced language is when teachers use a variety of words and describe unfamiliar words to children. So before reading a book about plants, the teacher might introduce the children to unfamiliar words and map them to words and concepts that the children might already know. So for example, we're going to talk about soil, which is another word for dirt. We put plants in soil to help them grow. So, I know that was a lot of information, but we're going to watch a video and see if there's a way that we can kind of put all these things together and see them within context. So, as we're watching, we're going to take a look at how this teacher plans for and builds on children's interests, actively facilitates the activity to engage children, and provides opportunities for analysis and reasoning, as well as stimulating activity in the real world. She's also going to have some really great conversations with children to support their language development. This is really important because this is not a teacher-led lesson. This is during Center's time. So I really want you to think this week about how you can provide support, not just in the lessons that you lead, but in the way that you facilitate centers and have smaller conversations with children to help prompt their thinking. Let's watch.